For as long as I can remember, it was there. Not always in the same place, not always close, but always watching. When I was little, I'd see it in the corner of my room at night. A figure standing completely still, just beyond the reach of my nightlight's glow. It had no distinct features, just a tall, thin silhouette darker than the darkness itself. At first, I thought it was a dream, the way it would be there one second and gone the next. But the older I got, the more I realized it wasn't going away. When I was 7, I saw it outside my window, standing in the backyard beneath the trees. I told my mom, but she just pulled the curtains shut and told me to stop scaring myself. When I was 8, I saw it in the hallway, standing at the far end in the shadows while I brushed my teeth. I watched it in the mirror, too scared to turn around. I called for my dad, but by the time he came, the figure was gone. When I was 9, I stopped telling my parents. They didn't believe me. No one ever did. But I knew. It was real. And when I was 10, I learned it wasn't just watching. It was waiting. It happened late one night. I woke up to the feeling of something wrong, something heavy in the air. My room was too still, too silent. Even the usual hum of the heater wasn't there. And then I saw it. Not in the corner, not outside the window. It was inside my room, standing at the foot of my bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The figure was taller now, looming, its edges flickering like a candle's flame, as if it wasn't entirely solid. A deep, suffocating cold rolled off of it, sinking into my skin, into my bones. Then it started to move. Slowly, it leaned forward. As it did, I heard something. A whisper, low and crackling, like a voice speaking from the bottom of a well. I couldn't make out the words, but they slithered through my mind. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. It inched closer. I felt something brush against my leg. Not a hand, not fingers. Something colder, heavier. That was when I found my voice. I screamed as loud as humanly possible. The door to my room burst open, and my mother ran in, flipping on the light. I was gasping aggressively for air, scrambling back against the wall, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might stop. It was gone, just like that. My mom grabbed me, shaking my shoulders. "What's wrong? What happened?" I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the empty space where it had been. She checked the closet, the window, even under my bed. She kept saying, "See? Nothing's here." And for a while, I let myself believe that. I didn't see it again after that night. Not at 11, not at 12, not even now, years later. But I still feel it, in empty rooms, in quiet moments, in the silence before I fall asleep. I know it's still watching, and I'm terrified for the day it shows itself again. I can't seem to escape this nightmare. I think it's attached to me or something. I wish I knew what it wanted. I wish it would just leave me alone. I remember that night like it just happened. It was winter, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones. My friend Caleb and I had walked home together from school after having practice. We were in 8th grade, and the school was close. By the time we got to his house, the sun was already gone, and the world outside had that eerie, blue-black winter darkness. No one else was home. His parents both worked late. That was fine with us. We kicked off our boots, threw our backpacks in the corner, and settled in the living room to play video games. The house was quiet, except for the clicking of buttons as we played. At some point, Caleb paused the game and stood up. "I'm grabbing my charger from my room," he said. "Come up with me." I didn't argue. I didn't like being downstairs alone in other people's houses. We walked toward the staircase, but the second we reached the bottom step, Caleb gasped and held me back, which is when I looked up. Something was there. There was a figure on the ceiling. It was upside down on all fours. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was human, or at least, it was shaped like one. Its fingers were splayed out like a spider's legs, and then, as if it could feel us staring, it moved. Its head snapped toward us so fast I heard the crack. That was when I saw its face. It didn't have eyes, just deep, hollow sockets. Its mouth stretching up past where its cheekbones should have ended, full of sharp, jagged teeth that looked too big to fit inside. I felt like I was staring at the devil himself. I felt my stomach drop. It was like smiling or something. Neither of us moved. We didn't scream. We didn't run. We just stood there, frozen, staring up at the thing as it clung to the ceiling, like gravity didn't apply to it. Then, it twitched. A sudden jerking movement, like it was about to lunge. That was when Caleb finally reacted. He grabbed my arm and yanked me backward so hard, I almost fell. Run. I didn't need to be told twice. We tore through the house, slipping on the hardwood floors, scrambling for the front door. We flung the door open and ran outside, straight into the freezing night. We didn't stop running. Not until we were halfway down the street, panting, our breath coming out in frantic gasps. I looked back. The figure was at the window above the staircase, staring at us. I nearly threw up from the fear, mixed with adrenaline. Caleb never went back inside that night. We stayed at my house instead, locked in my room, lights on until the sun came up. The next day, his parents acted normal. Nothing in the house was out of place. But Caleb never talked about it again. He felt that talking about it would like strengthen its presence, or something along those lines. He refused. He truly was never the same person. We haven't spoken in years, but for some reason I worry for him. Yes, it traumatized me, but that thing was in his house. It's hard for me to write this story without bringing up the pure fear I felt. I still don't know what we saw that night, but sometimes, when I'm alone in the dark, I think about the way it turned its head, and I wonder if it ever left. When I was 12, my mom and I went to visit her sister. I wasn't scared of my Aunt Gina's new house in Alabama when we first arrived. It was small but cozy, with warm yellow lights and old wooden floors that creaked under every step. The only weird thing about it was how close it was to the woods, so close that the trees seemed to lean toward the house, their bare branches scratching at the windows. That night, after dinner, my cousins Lily and Morgan pulled me into their room to talk. We hadn't seen each other in a while, so we stayed up late, telling stories and catching up. At some point, the conversation shifted. "This house is weird," Lily said. I frowned. "Weird how?" Morgan hesitated before saying, "Things happen here. I don't know how to explain it, but you'll see." I rolled my eyes. "You guys are just trying to scare me." Neither of them laughed. I woke up in the middle of the night, my bladder aching. The hallway outside the bedroom was darker and colder than before, the old wood floors creaking under my bare feet. The bathroom light buzzed to life as I shut the door behind me. The room was small, outdated floral wallpaper, an old clawfoot tub with a heavy shower curtain drawn shut, and a small mirror above the sink that was warped from age. I did my business and turned on the sink to wash my hands. The pipes groaned as ice-cold water rushed out. As I rubbed my hands together, I glanced up at my reflection. Then, behind me, the shower curtain flung open, not just a small shift. It was ripped open, hard, aggressive, violent. I spun around so fast I nearly slipped. The tub was empty. The curtain still swayed from the force of whatever had yanked it. My heart was pounding. I wasn't alone. I could feel it. Something still lingering in the air. Something unseen, watching. I backed toward the door, heart hammering against my ribs. I turned off the water and bolted, barely remembering to shut off the light. I threw myself under my blanket, squeezing my eyes shut. I tried to convince myself that it was just a draft, just my imagination, which I knew damn well wasn't true. But then, the second occurrence happened. I must have dozed off at some point, because when I woke up again, the room was still. Too still. That was when I noticed it. The closet door. It had been shut when we went to bed. I was sure of it. Now, it was open. Just an inch. I stared at the darkness beyond the gap, my chest tightening. The air in the room felt heavy again, the same suffocating pressure I'd felt in the bathroom. Something was in there. A soft creak sounded from inside the closet. I stopped breathing. Then, slowly, too slowly, the door started to open. My stomach dropped. It was deliberate. Not the wind, not the house settling. Something was pushing it open from the inside. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't even blink as the darkness inside the closet seemed to stretch toward me. Then, I heard what I think was a whisper, inches from my ear. My body finally obeyed me, and I jerked the blankets over my head, my heart slamming against my ribs. I didn't move for the rest of the night. When morning came, the closet door was shut again, but I hadn't shut it. I told my cousins what happened, and they didn't laugh or smile. If anything, it scared them even more. We left the next day, and I never spent another night there again. They eventually moved a couple years later, but my cousins seemed to embrace all of their experiences and became wildly into the paranormal. Not me, though. After what happened to me, there is a new kind of fear that lingers over me, and I don't play around about it.